Welcome to today's session. I'm really excited to take you through one of Excel's most important building blocks. Please confirm if you can hear me before I start once again. Confirm if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
All right. So welcome to today's section. We are going to have, I'm going to take you through one of Excel's most important building blocks. Okay, understanding how to, please, if you have your mic, please mute your mic. Okay, so that you will not distract, except when you have question or if there's any disparities or anything, maybe you need to bring to my notice. You can unmute your mic and call my attention. Okay. So, like I was saying, I'm going to take us through one of Excel's most important building blocks. Okay, we are going to understand how to analyze, summarize, and visualize your data using some powerful but simple tools, right? So now I want to start by saying this. This class is designed for beginners. So even if you are just getting started, you're going to understand. Though if you have been following our previous classes, you will understand better. But if you have not been joining our class, you will still have the time to view the recorded classes. Okay. So because each of our classes or let's say each of our sections are built from the one we have taught before. That is how this training is organized. Because this is a comprehensive training, okay, for data analyst. Okay, you learn how to use Excel for advanced data analysis. So in our previous class, we discussed about name ranges, different ways we can be able to create name ranges. We talk about create from selection. We talk about how to define names, from how you can name a range from the name box. We also talk about how you can manage these name ranges, and also discuss the benefits why we should use name ranges. We talk about all of these things. And if you see, as we go on the class, you see, that what we learn from the previous classes is actually helping us in the future classes that we are going to have, even in the present one today. Okay. So if you're joining for the first time, or if you are seeing our video for the first time, understand that this is a comprehensive Microsoft Excel training, not just training, but mentorship training for data analysis. Okay. So in this class, though, let's go. That's why I'm just trying to explain. So even if you're a beginner, you have not. This is not just about learning Excel. You want to learn Excel, but this is about being confident with Excel, working with Excel, working smarter with Excel, learning how to use Excel for business, for analysis, and for forecasting, even for data visualization. Okay, so you're going to learn all of these things in this training. Even in this class, you're going to pick a lot of skills, because this class is all about how to analyze, how to summarize, and how to visualize your data. So you don't need to have any prior experience with Excel functions or formulas. Okay, you don't need to have, because what you're going to use here, especially the name ranges, will become handy in this class. So we might not, you might not be confused about some certain things, but I will advise that you go through our previous classes. I will share the link of the playlist. You can watch it on YouTube. We have classes on functions, formulas, VLOOKUP, all of these, and we are still going to cover more. Okay. So all I ask is that you stay curious. Okay, you really want to learn something, you ask questions. Okay, because I always enjoy a class that is interactive, and also follow along. Okay, with the demos, because this is not just about the presentation you are seeing here. We are going to discuss the presentation, then do some demos, right? So you follow along the demos, then I'll explain every concept clearly. before we try it out together in Excel. So I will not just jump into Excel and start doing something. I'll first of all explain it clearly before we jump into Excel to do it like usual. Okay, we are going to start off with count function. Okay, we're going to start off with count function. How to count things like completed orders, missing values or missing entries, or all non-empty values. Okay, you learn how to use Excel to do this, all of this. You can remember all of this. We can also do it with other tools for data analysis, whether you're using Python, SQL, or R, or whatever tool you're using for data analysis. But here, you see how you can do the same thing using Excel to count things like you have, maybe a complete orders. Okay, you want to see, okay, how many orders we have. We have order details. Okay, but there are probably not orders have been completed. So we want to count the completed orders. How we can use count to get this? If you have any missing entries in your data, how you can use count to know, okay, we are having so number of missing entries, and or empty, maybe you have null values. Okay, you can also use count to do this. Then from there, we will move into COUNTIFS and the SUMIFS, okay, which are your go-to tools for building dashboards and making sense of data. Large data sets. Okay, when you're working with a large data set. So this COUNTIFS, SUMIFS is going to be very handy for us. Then you learn how to count and total values. Okay, only when specific conditions are met. Okay, that's the COUNTIF. You count only when specific conditions are met, or you sum only when specific conditions are met. Okay, like how many orders came from Ken, or we have been using Ken for a long time, maybe from Victoria, right? So, or you want to check how much did a manager, a particular manager, or in your company sell in a specific year, maybe 2024, since we are in 2025, right? Or even previous years like 2023 and all that. And finally, you bring it all together visually. Okay, after you have learned all these count and the COUNTIFS and the SUMIFS and all that. Okay, we'll bring it all together visually using Sparklines, charts, and trend lines to show trends. Like, when you want to show trends, we use trend lines to do this. This is especially handy when you want to forecast the future. You have visualized the data for this year. You want to forecast and see, okay, we are in 2025. We want to see, okay, how will the same data perform, or the same, okay, let's say the same data perform in the following year. We can use trend lines, okay, to show trends and insight that are easy to present or report to others. Okay, so these visuals will help your data. It will help your data, like especially when you want to tell a story, right? It will help your data tell the story, okay, without you even doing much. So whether it's in a classroom, just like we are here today, or in a business meeting, maybe in a place of work, or even a job interview, okay, by the end of this class, you won't just buttons. You will actually understand what's happening behind the scenes and how to build something meaningful from raw data. Okay, and we have a sample data set we're going to use for this class, and you see how we can be able to do all of this from this data. Okay, then everything that we're going to do today is hands-on. Okay, so I will demonstrate each step live, and you will follow along with the practice challenge. Okay, not alone. So don't worry about making mistakes. You might do mistakes, you might not follow through, maybe you have a data set over there with you, want to be watching and be practicing with the one you have. You might make mistakes, but they are part of learning. Okay, the important thing is that we keep it simple. We keep it practical, just like we are doing. It's not just come here and teach you, we practice. And most importantly, we make it stick. Okay, after all, they say practice makes permanent. Okay, so when you practice, it becomes permanent, not just being perfect, but permanent. So let's get started. I will begin by walking you through the count function, and then we open up Excel and explore together. Are you with me? Are you with me? If you are with me, please confirm.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. So
Okay.
the question is, why count in Excel? Why do we count? Why the need for us to count in Excel? Okay. Sometimes we need to count, not sum. Okay, depending on the criteria, right? Okay. So if depending on the data types or criteria and all of that, so sometimes we need to count, not to sum. Okay, and the count is like counting numeric entries. Okay, when we come to count, we have different types of count function. We have count, we have counter, and we have count blank. Okay, so these are tools made available for us to be able to count our data depending on what we have. So if you have numeric entries, you use count. Then if you want to count non-empty cells, okay, this could be maybe data that makes number and text together, or even have an hyphen, okay, uh, or maybe a symbol or something that makes it not a number anymore. Okay, as long as the cell is not empty, okay, we use counter to count all the non-empty cells. Then we use count blank to count empty cells. Okay, so these are counting in Excel. We don't always want to add things up. Like I said, when you want to use counting in Excel, we don't always want to add things up. Sometimes we simply want to know how many entries exist. So it's not, you have numbers, right? But you don't want to sum them up to find the total. You just wanted to know, okay, how many cells we made today, right? How many people placed an order? How many shipping we performed today? Okay. So for example, how many orders that we are shipped to, maybe to Kaduna, to Ghana, to wherever location, your business or your product is, or your order came from. Okay. Or how many entries that are missing in our data. Okay. That's where a source count function comes in. Okay. So I would have said, let me maybe discuss all the slide. Then we go to Excel. But I think we may move to Excel. Then maybe I'll explain so that you will not forget some of the explanation I made while we are doing the demo, right? So just like I've explained this slide, okay. But the other time I prefer that to explain all the drive so that once we move to Excel, um, we will start working, right? But let me just do it this way so that we will not be lost. Okay. So this is the data set we are going to use. Okay. Okay. But remember our last class we did discuss about name ranges and how it could be helpful for us. Okay. Imagine this data is, let me give me a moment. Okay. Okay. I just want that to go out. So remember our name. I told you how it would be very handy for us. Imagine this data set. Maybe we have thousands of rows and the hundreds of columns and all that. Might be too large for us, right? To do, okay, to be going through to and fro and all that. So name range is going to be very, very handy for us here. Okay. Now, before we do the counting or any counting, okay, let me show you a very handy step that will save us time. Okay, this is naming our data ranges. That's what I'm trying to talk about here. So instead of dragging to select columns, maybe you want to check the other number, you drag to select, and what if you have 1,000 rows? Don't drag in and all that, or even if using the keyboard shortcut and all that, it might still be stressful or time consuming. Okay, so instead of dragging to select columns every time, okay, we will create name ranges using the headers in our data set. And if you have not watched our name ranges class, you can always go back and watch it and see how we are able to create name ranges, okay, different name ranges, okay. So we will create name ranges using the headers in our data set. So I will click Control A, okay, to select the whole data set, right? Then I will go to the formulas tab. This is where we use to create name ranges in our previous classes. Then I will use, remember I say we have different types, like three types of creating name ranges. The one you can create from selection, the one you can create by defining the name ranges, and the one we can do in the name box. Okay, for this time, the one we want to use is create from selection because we have actually selected our data. So we want to create the name range from the data we selected. That is simple, right? So I will click on create from selection. Then I will make sure that I only check the top row. Okay, I'll only keep the top row checked because that is the name we want. What we want here is that we want to give every column the name that is on the column header, right? We want to assign that name to the name that is on the column header to every column. So instead of us manually selecting and dragging the column. Once we call the name of the column header, Excel understand that we are talking about that column. For instance, other number, Excel understand that you're talking about this column. So make sure that you select only the top row, you only have it checked, right? Then I'll click OK. Okay. These steps also replace existing definition of discount. Okay, this particular data probably have an existing name range called discount. Okay, so because we have a discount and discount other informations here. So I can say yes or I can say no. Okay, even if I choose no, I can still go and delete it later. So because I don't understand yet which discount, probably I named it and I've forgotten, I can say no. I can still go to the name manager and delete it later if they are the same thing. Or I can just go ahead and say yes, and it will replace it with another name range. So let me just say no for now and see. Okay, so we have actually given name ranges to our column. And if you go to the name box like here, you'll be able to see all those name ranges that we have here. And you can see we have discount and we have other, but because I did not, I think because I did not change, let me, you see, probably I would have said yes over there, but let me make this column wider so that I can be able to see all the information that we have. Okay, this is discount by percent and discounts by amount. Okay, so who knows? So let me know the column that we have that is this discount here. It will take us this spread. So it is discount by the amount. Okay, we have the dollar sign there. So discount by amount. I mean, I say yes, it would have given it this exactly this name we have here, discount with the dollar sign on it. But that's not a problem. Okay, that's not a problem. So let's go forward. So this, as we have given our data name, we have assigned name ranges to our data. Okay, this helps us to write cleaner formulas. Like I can say, for instance, now if you want to count maybe the shipping date, which we are going to do. So instead of saying, let me just do that in one of the empty columns. So instead of saying count, I hope you can see, let me do it where you more visible. Let's do it here. So instead of saying go to count, right? I have to select. Then instead of, okay, we want to check the probably the shipping date, right? Where do we have the shipping date? Okay, see the shipping date. So instead of me to come and start dragging, right? I can just use the name range. So I don't want to do that yet. We will do that when it's time. So this is where it is very, very handy to assign name ranges to your data. Okay, so now that our ranges are named, let's talk about the first function, which is the count. Remember, we have three functions, three count function, the count, counter, and the count blanks, right? So the count function only count numeric entries, like already explained. So things like the numbers of dates, okay, or you want to count the number of, the shipping numbers or the dates or shipping dates. Understand? Something like that. Other number of, okay, we cannot use other number here because of the hyphen has here. So you can say maybe you want to count how many the shipping date. Let's just use the shipping date for now. Okay. You want to count shipping date, or you want to count, because the shipping date contains dates. So you can use count to count either number or dates. Okay. So if a cell has a text or is empty, the count function will ignore it. Okay. So let's try counting how many shipping dates have been entered in a cell. Okay. So I will click on a blank cell and type. Let me go. I think we have. Okay, that's this. Let's do that here. We want to see how many. Let's do that here. How many? What did I say? We want to check how many shipping dates, right? That we have. We want to count maybe um if there is any empty cells in the shipping date, as I will ignore it to give us only those numbers that we want. Okay, so now I've clicked on this shift here. Let me check and see if we have. Okay, so now we have clicked here. Then I will say equal to count. That's the first function we want to do. Now, instead of me to be dragging to select the columns, I'll just say count, then start typing the name of the um name ranges that we assign. You can see we already have shipping date here. So if I say ship, you see you already selected for me, so I can use tab to select it. So the moment I select it, you can see it has highlighted the column, automatically select everything. And once I go out of, or either you click enter, or once you go out from there, it will give you the result you want. So I mistakenly click into this place. That's why it gives us the result. But it still give us the exact result that we want. I just want to make sure we understand first before I click enter. So you can see the moment I select the ship date, the name range that we assign to this column, it automatically highlights the whole column. Okay. So what this count function will do now is to count this column and to check the number of dates, as in number, let me say days that we were able to ship stores. So if there is any missing values there, it will skip it. Okay. If a cell has no text or it is empty, maybe if a cell has text, because it doesn't count text. So if the cell has text or is empty, the count function will skip it. So if I click enter, you see, we are able to see we have up to 1,037 shipped dates. So imagine the number of rows we have here. Imagine if we were selecting and dragging it manually. It will be very, very, very stressful. Understand? Though it's not that it will not give you the result, but it might be, as in, it will delay time, or you might even make a mistake, I mean to say. So you see how we were able to use the count function to get the our ship date, the number of our ship date. That's how count function is very, very handy for us. I hope you understand this count function. Before I move into the counter, you understand the count function, you understand the
Yes.
ranges that we did.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Give me a moment. Let me check something. Okay. So let's begin. So the counter function is the next function that we will discuss. Okay. The counter function, right? Okay, we have prepared the name ranges, we have used the count function, then the counter function Okay, this counter function counts all non-empty cells. It works with text, numbers, and symbols. So when you have these mixed up in your column, you use counter instead of count. Because if you use count function, it will it will not give you the exact, in fact, it will not give you the result if it has text, numbers, and symbols mixed together. Okay, so we are going to see that in action. Okay, so here counter is used when entries are mixed formats. That is what I'm even trying to explain. It is used when entries are mixed format. Okay, so we have this counter and it's very handy for us from when we have mixed format. Okay, this is similar to count function actually, but it doesn't just look for numbers. It counts any cell that has something inside it. As long as the cell has something inside it, it will count it, right? Okay, so whether it is numbers, text, or even a dash, okay, like hyphen or whatsoever is inside it, it will count it. So, for example, if you try to count, let me go to Excel so you see what I'm talking about. If you try to count the other number, right? Okay, so this is the other number, right? But we want to get our orders. So if you try to count the other number, let me say equal to, remember we use the count function, right? So let me use it again here. And I'll say other number. Okay, no, other number, that's what I want. Let me just come here and say, okay. Okay, you see, as I use the other number, oh, it didn't give me what I want. Let me try again. Okay. Um, Other number, use tab instead. Okay. So if I press enter now, you see it will give us 0 because it couldn't find any number here. Okay, there is no number there. What you are seeing here is not treated as a number. Even though you are seeing 5014, it's not treated as a number. So that is why it gives us 0. Okay, we might, it's not even a match. You can, except if you have any number value inside it. Okay, but if there is no number value inside it, you will get 0 because our other numbers have dashes inside it. That dash that that is mixed with the numbers now makes it not to be recognized as a number. It is now a kind of mixed up or mixed format. Okay, but if we use counter, okay, we will get the correct number of entries. So let's use counter instead. So here I'll say instead of count, let me just come here and I say instead of count, I'll say counter, right? Then I'll say enter. You see, we are able to get the number, exact number we need for, we want to find the a number of other, as in other numbers that we have. How many others? You want to answer questions, okay, ask you, how many others did we get today? Or how many others did we get? Let me see why. Okay, right. So you want to get how many others. You want to answer question like how many others did we have today or yesterday or whensoever. Okay, this is how you can be able to answer the question. So if you have a mixed format, okay, this data you have in the cells, the values you have in the cells are mixed format. You use counter, but if they are just numbers, you use count. Remember that when you use count, if there are missing values, empty entries, count will skip it. Okay, so you'll be able to know exactly number of maybe date or number of a specific order that was made that is not mixed up, right? So the next count function we want to talk about is the count blank. Count blank, okay? Let me quickly go to the slide, see what we have there. So count blank is used to spot missing data. Okay, if you have any missing data, it will be very helpful to spot them and tell you, okay, in this column we have missing cells that are empty, okay, they are actually blank. There is nothing inside it, missing values, right? So count blank is very helpful to spot this missing data. Okay, it highlights the empty cells. It will highlight them. Then it is useful for data cleaning. Okay, when you want to clean data, you can use it to know, okay, how many cells in your data are empty. Okay, so if you want to remove them or delete them. Okay, so you can see the example of the count blank function. Okay, and we're going to use that. Okay, now we want to cache what is missing in our data using the count blank, right? So this count blank is designed to count the empty cells, like I explained. So it's perfect for data cleaning or spotting entries that people forgot to fill. So when someone, maybe the data entry, the person in charge of data entry forgot to fill in some information, or whether it is through survey and they left it empty, okay, this count blank is helpful to count these empty cells. Okay, let's say we want to know how many times the other priority was left blank. So type, let's go to Excel. So we want to see the missing priorities, right? So here I will say equal to, then since you want to find the count blank, and I will say other priority, right? So the other priority, then if you use the count blank, it will check the other priority, okay, and it will instantly tell us, let me just click enter, you see, it will instantly tell us how many blanks that are there, okay. So we are able to see, okay, in this column, we have two cells or two rows that are empty. Remember, this data contains about over 1,000 rows, right? So this helps you to count, to even find this information without you searching manually, scrolling down. It will be time wasting. So using the count blank, we are able to find the number of empty cells or empty values that we have in our data. This helps highlight where action is needed. Okay, so to summarize what we discussed about count and the counter and the count blank, okay, you use count when you are only interested in numbers. Use count when you are only interested in numbers. Then use counter when you want to count everything except blanks. There is a function for that one. Okay, then which is the count blank. So you use the count blank when you are trying to find what's missing. Okay, so together there are these two together. When you use them together, give you a full picture of your data set completeness. So we had this data, a lot of this data, but from here, just from this place, okay, these informations here, from here we are able to see other numbers, how many others we have, how many missing values we have, and how many shipped orders, how many orders that we are shipped, okay, using the ship date. Actually, the ship date will tell us that we actually perform a shipping that day, right? Of this big data set we have here, but we are able to answer the question just here, like that. Okay. So now we will move to COUNTIFS and COUNTIF and SUMIFS. Okay. So we remember we have COUNTIF, we have COUNTIFS. Okay. The same goes to with SUMIFS and the SUMIFS as well. Okay. So let's go to COUNTIF. Let me go to the slide and see what we have. Okay, this is the cup I already talked about. So if, countifs, these are two powerful functions when you want to count only when a certain criteria or criterias are met, or when one condition or multiple conditions are met. So if you want to check only when one condition is met, you use count if. But if you want to check, count when multiple conditions are met, you use count ifs. Okay, so For dashboard, we use COUNTIFS because we want to check probably for multiple conditions, right? So, example, we can say COUNTIFS state VIC. What this does is that it will go into the state column and it only counts if the information in that state column is VIC. So it will look for VIC. VIC is the abbreviation for the name of a state, right? Then it will search for it in that column and find it, and it will count them. Okay, so these are multiple criteria. We have two conditions here, right? So it count others by region. Okay, then it use name ranges for clean formulas. We use name ranges here for clean formulas, which is what we have already done in our data, so that we can um, find what we have. Then we can also use count to find the count by what we are going to do in this class. So we're also going to count customer type. Okay, then we'll select a particular cell, maybe cell A11. Okay, then it will check the customer type and use the criteria information that we have in the A11 to search. Okay, so it applies to each row and fill them down. Okay, then the chart that we have, we update. Okay, you will see I've already done that. Okay, when you just a cell that is empty, but you created a chart for it. Then when you use these COUNTIFS and other to perform these formulas and all that, it will automatically update you. The chart will become visible. It will come live for you, right? So using COUNTIFS, they say quantity is over 40. It helps you for you to find, I don't know, maybe I just want to explain this, then I'll go to Excel. We do all of them one after the other, right? We'll do all of them one after the other. So let me not just explain and do and come back and see that I have slides that I have not explained and I'll just keep them. So this case here is that we want to count other quantities that are greater than 40. Okay. Then here we want to count by customer type. Here we want to count by state. So I just want to make sure other ones I've explained is well understood. So here if you want to count other quantity that is over 40, you use the criteria what we have here as an example. Then this quote is a quote needed for expression. You have to use quote. Okay, inside everything like the greater than 40 will be enclosed inside the quotation. Okay, for expression. Okay, this will filter numeric values with logic. Though we are looking for numeric values, but it will filter it with logic. Okay, logical function greater than, less than, and all that. Okay, so let me see if okay, now let's go to the Excel before we start or before we summarize the SUMIFS and other COUNTIFS and other. So we have used count, okay, a lot. Now we want to use COUNTIFS, right? We have seen how we are able to use count to answer questions. Okay, so we have counted everything: numbers, non-blanks, and the blanks. But what if we only want to count values that meet specific criteria? Like how many orders came from New South Wales? That is the NSW, to the case if you see it in that abbreviation. For instance, you want to see how many orders came from that state, or maybe another state. Okay, that's where COUNTIF and the COUNTIFS come in. Okay, so the S makes the difference here between the COUNTIF and the COUNTIFS. So COUNTIF is for a single condition, while COUNTIFS allows multiple conditions. But I will be using COUNTIFS in this class since it's more flexible and it works just as well for one condition. So even if you want condition, it will also work for you. That's what makes it more flexible. But COUNTIF cannot work when you have multiple conditions. But the COUNTIFS can work even if you have one condition. Okay, so now we want to count by state. Let me go to the sales dashboard. Okay, you can see these are the dashboard that we have. Let's say this is a dashboard that we created, right? And you can see we have our charts here, but they are blank. Nothing is showing because these cells that I used to create them are empty. Okay, so what we want to find here, for example, for this case now, the first use case we want to try here is to count by state. Okay, so I will say, let's try, for instance, this is a real world example. Okay, it is not just, that is why I have to use this data set, because it is a real world example. You can also apply this in a workplace because you're actually answering information that has to do with real world. Okay, now Ken, the data analyst that have been helping us, do a lot of things, want to know how many orders came from DIC, NSW, and WA. These are short form for, the name of the state, okay, probably in the US. Okay, so these are the three states he's analyzing. Okay, so we will write a county formula like, counties, then we say state, and we'll count it from where it is. Okay, that state, if you say state, because let's go to this data set and you see we have okay, let me look for it. We have city, we have, what else do we have, so that we know the one we can use. Okay, let me see the one we have. Okay, we actually have states, right? So we are going to use states, okay, for instance here. So let's practice and see how that works. So I will say equal to, for the DIC, I will say equal to count. So we want to use COUNTIFS, right? COUNTIFS, right? Now, our name ranges will become useful for us here as well. So I'll start typing state. Okay, it will give us the state column. If you go there, you see that the state column has been highlighted already. Then I will say comma. Then the criteria that we want to use to count, we want the set to go to that state column and look for DIC. So whenever you see DIC, count it. That's what I mean. So we'll select this particular load. Either you select it, or you can say, because we have DIC inside there, so you can actually select that row, or you can say column, then give the criteria B and C, like this. Okay, but it's always handy, since what you have, information you have in this cell is, if I do this, it will work. If I do the other one, let's do this one first, and you see it will work. So if I say enter, it counts the number of, GIC that appears in the state. And you can see as I click enter, our chart for it is actually coming to life. It will update automatically. And now another thing I wanted to do for you to see that is the same thing is that if I say select the information here, that I'll say enter, still the same thing, right? And let me see if you copy it down, if it will work. Can you see? So you see why the name ranges is very, 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 very handy. What this does is that remember that name ranges makes your column to become absolute automatically. You don't have to bother about the dollar sign and all that again. But here, our this particular column A that has this information is relative. Okay, it is relative, so it moves down. So why the state? If I select this cell now, if you look into the formula bar, it says count if the state remains, but it moves down to A6. If you go here, you see count if state is moved down to A7. Okay, so that's state column is absolute because we use name ranges there. So automatically it is absolute. And the moment we did this, our chart comes to life. Okay, then that's the first use case that we have. Then the second use case we have is to count by customer type, right? To count by customer type. So it's the same thing, almost the same thing that we did here. So not to waste our time, I'll say count ifs, right? Then I'll say customers is customers type that we're looking for. So let me just go straight and select it. Okay. Then I'll say comma. Then I'll say A11. Okay. That's what we want to do. So I will now say enter. Okay. The moment I did that, the chart for the customer type, orders by customer type, updates. Okay. This is because we have already created this chart using, though this might be empty, but we already created it. So it's a kind of automation. Once we do, it updates. So that is why even when you're using a data from a website, you are visualizing a data from a website, it keeps on updating the chart once a new information comes in, right? Maybe when someone else added more information, or when we get a new customer type, it will update in the chart. You can see this is becoming more handy for us. Now we want to see count the, remember the third criteria is to count the quantity that is over 40, that is quantity that is greater than 40. So I will say equal to COUNTIFS, then I will say, remember before we go further, this is just for us to turn things a bit up. So it's not just about counting if this information is here. But what if we want to count something maybe that is, want to become more logical, like you want to find something that is higher or lower or greater than, less than, this, all of that. So we want to, turn things up. That's what we want to do here. So Ken want to know how many orders had a quantity greater than 40. Okay, so this is a numerical comparison, okay, not an exact match. Okay, so our formula changes slightly here. Okay, so I will say equal to COUNTIFS, then I will say order number is what we want to check, right? Order quantity, I mean to say, not order number. Order quantity. So let me come to the order quantity and select. Then I will say this time I will enclose it into a quotation. We want to find the one that is greater than 40. Okay, why you should enclose it into a quotation is you want to be more flexible, right? And since we are becoming logical as well. This is not just 40. We want to find other quantities that are 40. Or if it is that, you don't need to enclose into a quotation. But because we want to find other quantity that is greater than 40, you have to enclose them into a quotation. And so we'll see, once the cell see greater than, it understand that this is a formula, right? So something important here is that when using comparison operators like the greater than, okay, or less than, they must be enclosed in a quotation. That is what I'm trying to explain. So you don't just go and say equal to you say count if order number greater than 40, it will throw an error. So make sure that you enclose them into a quotation. Okay, greater than 40. Then I'll say enter. Okay, like this we have been able to count, and we see that our order that are over 40 is 238. With this, we have been able to answer our business questions. Okay, we have been able to help our company or our business to answer questions. So if your manager comes and say, how many orders that are, that are greater than 40,000 or that are greater than 40, maybe we have 50 orders, we have 30 orders, we have 100 orders. we have 150 orders, and the manager is just interested to know how many orders that are greater, at least from 40. We know that maybe we have a criteria, we have a, what's it called, a milestone that we can have order up to, as long as from 40 upward, we know that we are actually successful or making progress. So if your manager asks you this question, this is just how you are going to answer the question. Simple. You'll be able to know, oh, orders that are greater than 40, other quantities that are greater than 40 are 238. So by this, we'll be able to know if you're actually making progress or not. So that's enough for the count ifs. Okay, so use count if. This is the summary, right? We want to summarize our count if and all that. So you use count if someone trying to, I want to make sure, let me check if people that join are able to join the live. I'm getting notification that someone joined, but I'm not sure if they are able to join the live. Give me a moment, I'll be back. Let me come back here. Okay. Okay, I think the person we are able to join. I just wanted to make sure if you are here, you are able to join. I'm coming. Okay, so back to the summary. So like I was saying, you need to know when to use each of these functions. Knowing the functions is okay, but that's not just enough. You need to know when to use it. You need to know about COUNTIF and COUNTIFs. You might be confused. Okay, which one should I use? Instead of you to be confused about, since I already told you that COUNTIFs is flexible. If you are confused, use COUNTIFs because it is flexible. Whether it is multiple conditions, just like you see, this is just one condition, right? But this one, I mean to say, is one condition, but this one is multiple conditions. So you can see we even use COUNTIFs to perform this function. I said it already. I said I'm going to use it because it's more flexible for us. Okay. So what we would have been able to perform with COUNTIF, we can use COUNTIFs to do it. It's more flexible for us. Okay. So if you want to update the function later, maybe to add more criteria or conditions, we can go ahead. Okay, even if it is in your working place, you can go ahead and do it. Okay, but if it is COUNTIF, you might need to add the S before it works. Okay, if you have multiple conditions like we have here. Okay, so like we have here, what this functions does here is that the COUNTIF, this COUNTIF function here, what it does here is that the first condition is it will look into the state condition in the state column and find the WA, probably Washington or so, I don't know, state in that state, but it will not stop there. It will go to the customer type and find the ones that are corporate. So even if it finds WA in the state, it will not count yet. Okay, it will now move to this one, then make sure that it is counting customer type that are corporate that lives in WA. Okay, so that's what it will do here. It will find customer types that belongs to the corporate group that lives in WA. So even if you live in WA but you don't belong to this customer type, it will not count it. That is when you have multiple, you want to answer multiple questions like how many orders that you make that are more condition, maybe, okay, how many customers that made up to maybe so amount of orders from Enugu? Okay. How many customers from Enugu purchase so amount of order? So it's a multiple criteria. It's not just because you are a customer in Enugu, but you have to meet an additional criteria. So use COUNTIF when you are filtering by one thing. Okay, it is simple. Then use COUNTIFS when you have two or more criteria, or just prefer more control. Okay, so you can also combine test conditions and numerical expression in COUNTIFS. That is why it is handy. You can mix both, combine both text and the numerical expression in COUNTIFS, which make it super powerful, and that's why I like using it. Okay, that's for the COUNTIFs and COUNTIFs. If you have any question, you ask before we move to the SUMIFS and the rest of the class. Do you have any question? Any
No
question?
question, my brother.
No question.
Yeah, everything is. We know you have done these count ifs and counts, some if and some this thing. You understand? We've done
Yes,
it before,
yes.
but this one is
That's why,
we've done it edition.
yes. That's why I say that every of our class is built from, So if you have attended the
Yes.
previous class, it will be very useful for you. Imagine if you didn't teach the COUNTIF and we started, this particular class is not just we are teaching COUNTIF. We are using COUNTIF now. But in that our class,
Yes.
we taught COUNTIF. We taught it as a, but now we are using it, even though I'm trying to be more explanatory so that even if you're coming across this video for the first time, you still understand. But this time, we are not just teaching COUNTIF and the COUNTIFs. We are now using it from what we have learned. So each class is built on, So you might need to, if you have not gone through the other classes, you might need to go through it. So the next thing we want to talk is SUMIFS. Okay, so far we have learned to count based on conditions. Now let's take it one step further. Okay, what if you wanted to know how much was sold instead of how many? Okay, the count is check how many. We want to see how many, like number of orders, number of people from certain location, number of dates that shipping that happened maybe in a particular period. What if we now want to see how much? Okay, we have 50 orders from Enugu. How much does that 50 orders give us? How much did we make from that 50 orders? That is where SUMIFS comes in. Okay, that is where SUMIFS comes in. So when you use SUMIFS, it adds values from a range, not count. It adds it instead of counting it. Okay, so it adds values from a range, but only if certain conditions are met, just like the COUNTIF. Okay, but the thing here is that it is adding the values, not counting them. Okay, so but if you are using other, whether count, whatever, you might be trying to answer the different question. Okay, so I just want you to understand clearly why how SUMIFS differs from COUNTIF. Okay, so if you look at it, this is the structure of how to use SUMIFS. Okay, SUMIFS is also, you are checking multiple conditions, right? Or even if it is one condition but different criteria. So you have SUMIFS, the sum range, okay, then the criteria range 1, then criteria. You can have more than one criteria. You need to see this, the sum range, that is the column that you want to sum. The criteria for that range, then other criteria. You may not understand until we put it into action. Okay, we may not understand. So we actually have use cases. Let me see the use cases. The first use case we want to see is sales by manager. We want to see sales made by our managers. Okay, so you can see the example we have here. We have SUMIFS total. Okay, we have a total column where we have the total of sales. Okay, then the account manager, particular manager, we want to see their total, and the criteria we want to look into. Okay, so this sum total filtered by manager name. Okay, then we are going to use name ranges. Okay, so when we finish this use case, we will go to the next use case is sales by manager and the year. The first one was just sales by manager. Now we want to see sales by manager and which year. Okay, so you sum it total, account manager as well, the criteria, then another, this is multiple now, other year, then this is like a criteria range 2 and criteria for it. This one is like criteria. Let's go back to, you see what I'm talking about. Okay, this is sum range, right? This is criteria range 1. Then we have a criteria for it. Then here, what we have is the sum range, criteria range 1, criteria for this criteria range 1, then criteria range 2, criteria for this criteria range 2. Okay, the two criteria, manager and year. Okay, it's going to help us. So the grid structure needs mixed reference. So if you look at, you see that we are going to have a mixed. This is a mixed reference. Okay, the column A is absolute, but row 21 is relative. Here, column C is relative, row 20 is absolute. So we are going to see that in action as well. I just want to see all the, okay, we only have 2 use cases here. Then you can also see how we are going to fix the reference issues. Okay, when you drag formulas, okay, with shift cells left, we are going to use mixed ref. I think I already explained that. Then use F4 to toggle absolute and mixed references. I've taught us that if you want to toggle the type of reference you want to use F4. You keep on pressing it until you get the exact one you want to do. So let's start with the use case, first use case, right? Before we continue. Okay. So the first use case is we want to find the total sales per account manager. So look at, we have our account managers here, right? We have their names here, sales by account manager. But these informations here are actually empty. Okay. So what we do here, let's say Ken wants to know how much revenue each account manager generated. In this case, our sum range is the total column that we have here. Okay, the total column. Then remember, I'm talking about the formula that I showed us here. Okay, the formulas that I showed us here. The sum range, okay, is the total. Okay, in this case, the sum range is the total column that we are going to use here, which is the actual sales. Then the condition is the account manager. So the account manager name is going to be here. So our formula will be, let me go to Excel so we can try that. Okay, so let's come here in this place, for instance. I'll say equal to, then I'll say SUMIFS, because it's actually SUMIFS that we want to find. Then I'll say, remember, the total is the column that we need, that is the range, sum range that we are looking for. So I'll use tab to select it, and I'll say comma. Then the first criteria range is the account manager. Okay, so I'll type account manager. So I'll select. Then the next criteria is which manager are we looking for? That is the criteria 1. So I will come here and I will select this A21, which is COUNTIFS. So it will go to the total. It will go to the account manager information and look for COUNTIFS. Then go to the total and see how much COUNTIFS was able to make, and it will give us the answer. So if I click enter, you will see we have been able to find information for COUNTIFS, and you will see that it's updated in our chart for COUNTIFS. Okay, we have been able to find the information instantly. You get total sales per this what's it called, COUNTIFS. So let me copy it down. Okay, so I wouldn't, let me undo. I wouldn't want to include the empty. Okay, so I've just copied it down here, and you can see they updated here, right? Now, the next use case is to find the sales by manager, not just by the manager, but by what? The year it happens. Okay, so what I will do here is I'll select equal to, and I'll say, okay, remember it's the same thing, the same SUMIFS. So don't get confused. But what we want to do here is that we want to make things more dynamic, right? What can, maybe, let's say, what if Ken want to see each manager's sales broken down by year? So we have, instead of this is the total of these 2013 sales by COUNTBLANK, 2014, 15, 16, we have the total here. So what if we want to see the breakdown by year? Okay, this what is it called? These sales by these managers broken down by year. Okay, that's two criteria that we need here. So we need the account manager's name, and we need the order year. So our formula will be like equal to SUMIFS. Then I'll start typing the total again, and I'll use tab to select, then comma. Then I will say the first criteria is the account manager, the same account manager, start to comma. Then the next is COUNTBLANK, right? But we will not just leave it like this. We want the column A to be absolute, while the rows can move down. Okay, we want the column to be, so it cannot copy. The column will remain absolute, so that if we move that, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy it, so I don't have to manually be doing the SUMIFS for other years. Okay, that's why we needed to do this. So if we try to fill the remaining cells, this column will not move, and if it moves, it will now find this information here, and it might give us either throw an error or a wrong information. So that is why we want the column to be absolute, but the row can move down, because we also want to find information for Stevie Akata and Natasha Song and all of that. So to do this, you press the F4 once, press it again, 2, press it again, 3. 3 times we press it, we are able to make the $ being before the column A makes the column A absolute. If the $ was at the middle here, it is the row that we are making absolute, not the column. But this time we want to make the column absolute. Absolute means it will not move, it will not copy to another, the formula will not copy to another cell. Okay, but the row can move down, can copy down. So if I do this, then I will say comma. Then the next criteria we are looking for is the order year. Okay, so because we are trying to find the years 2013 and all of that. So I will say order year, right? Let's find it. This is the order year. So I will select the order year. Then I will say comma. Then the next criteria is I will select the C. This C that is here, that's C20. Okay, we want to find 2013. It will look for 2013 inside the order year column that we have in our orders sheet, right? So now I want to make the row absolute, okay, so that it will not move down when we copy. We want it to remain to 2013. I mean the row, but the column can move so that we also find information for 2014. But we don't want it to copy down so that we don't look into and see another information and throw an error or give us a wrong information. So to do this, I will press the F4 twice. 1, 2. Okay. Now it is the row 20 that is absolute, but the column can move because we want to copy the information across other years. I don't know if you are understanding me. I hope you understand my explanations.
Yes, yes.
This is getting more interesting. But as long as you joined our reference class where we talked about relative, absolute, and mixed references,
References
you will definitely understand this class. And once you understand what it means, just like I'm trying to explain it better here, when you lock, for instance, this you lock the what is it called? The row, not the column, so that the row cannot copy down. Understand? Because we are going to copy down and we're going to copy right as well. Okay. So while we are rocking the column and rocking the row here is depending on which one is so that it will not give us a wrong information. So if I click enter here now, you see it gives us for 2013. You see that Conobet was able to make 8,700 and whatever dollars. So now we can decide to copy this down, and I can say like this, and you see it copies. I can bring it down. Sorry, I need to copy it without throwing an error, because if I click into let's click it into this one. If you look at the formula bar here, you will see that the A remains absolute, right? But it moves to the row 21, right? That is what. Then the other year, the row 20 remains what's it called? Absolute, but it moves to column D. It is no longer. But remember, this one is column C, right? But row 20. This one is column A, but column A row 21. The same thing here, column A row 21. Okay, but moving right, copying right, this is the one we need to focus on. This is what we need to focus on. But when we copy down, we will focus on, you see, it moves down. Even here, it did not mix the cell absolutely. It did not copy the formula well. So we are going to fix this. Let me check. Okay, sorry. I move into the totality. That's why I was confused. Okay. So if you look at this place, if you are moving down, you see that the column remains fixed, but the row is moving down. 23, 24, 25, right? But the column remains fixed. This column A, where we are looking for. So it is now looking into the names of these account managers, but it will copy the rows down. But if you are going right, you see this is where we need to focus. This is D20. This one will be E20. This one will be what? F20. It's actually the columns that are moving, not the row. Understand? The row is absolute. That is what I want to explain here. Okay. So anytime you drag the formula across column and maybe across column and down towards the rows. Except I normally shift everything, that can break your formula. Okay, but to prevent this, we use something called mixed references. Okay, that is what we did already. Okay, so instead of, let's say I did not actually make this let me just remove the dollar sign so that you see what I'm talking about. Let me just remove this dollar sign. Then the answer might be correct, but if I move it, you see, it gave us wrong information because it's actually wrong because the cells moves, but it couldn't actually find. You cannot, for instance, say you are multiplying number with text. It's not possible. okay, or you are summing text with number. It is not possible. That is why we got that error. Okay, so you have to know how to make your column or your rows fixed to get the result you want. Okay, so let's summarize the SUMIFS that we just taught. Okay, so know when to use the SUMIFS. Use SUMIFS to total values conditionally. Okay, as long as it has that ifs. Ifs is like a conditional statement. It's not like it's like, it is a conditional statement, even in Python and other programming language. So when you say if, it's a conditional statement. So now we are not just summing, we are summing under a condition. And the else there is if you have multiple conditions. So SUMIFS for multi-filter totals. Okay, you want to total values conditional based on person, region, year, etc. We have seen some example already. Okay, then always double check your cell references if you are dragging formulas. Just like that's why I taught us how to use the mix. What we use there is mix references. Okay, mix references. That is what we used here. Either column is locked and the row can move. One is locked, one is absolute, one is relative. It become a mixed reference. If I want it to become relative, I will remove the dollar sign. If I want it to become absolute, then both the column A and column and row will be absolute. That will have dollar sign before them. Okay, it will not just be before one. So that's it. So always double check your cell references to make sure it doesn't throw an error or give you the wrong information, especially when you are dragging formulas. Okay, then use the dollar sign before a column or row to lock it. If you want to lock a column, use the dollar sign before it. If you want to lock a row, use the dollar sign before it. Okay, this is critical when creating dynamic grid style dashboard, just like we have in our, for instance, in our cell. Okay, so that is it. You see the grid we are talking about, you can see the grid lines. So though this is a column chart, but it has grid lines on it, so that makes it a type of grid style or maybe chart, or the dashboard itself. Our dashboard will remove the grid lines out of it. We don't want the grid line to be showing here, so that it will be neat for us. And we can decide to give the background any color that we want. Okay, so you can practice more, okay, to get things. You can decide, maybe you have this data set, you want to see if to get sales per account manager, add the second condition, maybe year, and create a grid and all of that. Okay, so you know that we use F4 to toggle our needs preferences. Okay, so if you do all of this correctly, your table will perfectly, will feel perfectly, just like we are doing. And you can see our dashboard is coming live, right? So the next thing we want to talk now is Sparklines. We talk about Sparklines, we talk about charts and forecasting. Okay, you already see some charts here, okay, that update automatically, but we are going to also create a chart for you to see. But we will start with Sparklines. So let's go to the, okay, so what are Sparklines? Okay, it's a tiny graphs in one cell, show trends by row, and start via insert Sparkline. So okay, something fun about all of this is Sparkline. Sparkline can be very fun. Okay, it can be very fun. It can help you understand the trend. Okay, and all of that, just like the trend line does as well. Okay, so these are tiny charts. You are creating a chart inside your data. Okay, but they are just tiny charts. Instead of creating a chart outside, a different graph or draft or whatever, you are creating a tiny chart that fits into a single cell. Okay, we are going to see that. So imagine a mini graph showing performance trends for each account manager. Now we have been able to find the total sales by these account managers, and we have been able to find the total sales per year, right? Now you want to see, you want to have a mini graph showing performance trends. These trends of this performance for each account managers, all within their role. Okay, this is simple but powerful. Okay, so one thing you need to understand is that these Sparklines are perfect for dashboard. When you are creating dashboard, it is very, very handy for it. Okay, where space is limited, but insight is needed. So you might not have all the space to add the graph, or maybe the column or the line graph, or whichever type of chart you want to add. Okay, but you still want to create an insight without creating an extra chart. Maybe you don't have space anymore. So these Sparklines are very perfect. Okay, especially in dashboard creation. Okay, so we are going to insert and copy Sparklines. I think that's the next thing. We are going to insert and copy Sparkline. You see how we can insert and copy them down, just like we do, copy our formulas down. Okay, so to do this, I'll go to cell G21. Yeah, right. So we want to insert a Sparkline, okay, for our total sales by this account manager per year, okay, for these years that we have 2013, 14, 15, and 16. Okay, so what we'll do here now, we'll go to the insert. If you go to the insert, then you see Sparkline in the group. This is Sparkline groups. So I can decide to choose which Sparkline or type of Sparkline I want to use, whether it is line, column, and all of that. Okay, so let's use line Sparkline, for instance. Now you have to select the range, okay, that you want to use. Okay, you need to choose the data that you want to, find the trend, or to see the trend, okay, or get the insight for. So now the range that we need is from this 2013 to 2016. Remember, we are in the row for Conobet, right? The trend we want to find is the sales by Conobet for these years. And if I click OK, you see the line, and I can copy it down. But remember, we can always double click to copy down formulas, but it doesn't work for the field handle. Double clicking the field handle doesn't work for Sparklines. So you have to click and drag it down by yourself, right? So yes. So you can see the trends that shows how the performance of each of these managers. You can see the one that maybe the one that did well, and the one that was going higher, and the one that from maybe the first year it made good sales, and from before it starts going down. You can use this Sparkline to get this information. And another interesting thing is that you can customize your Sparkline. Okay, you can customize your Sparkline by grouping it or ungrouping it. You can change the style, the type, the color, okay, of your Sparkline, which is what we are going to do. Okay, so let's make this pipeline to come out for us better. Okay, so by default, all Sparkline are grouped. Let me go to Excel. Okay, so by default, all Sparkline are grouped. So if you look at this group, this place line, this group, what is it called? Let me just say the group. Understand, in the tab, in the design tab. So you see that automatically it is grouped. That is why we can't be able to use the group again. So we can either ungroup, right? So that's by default, it is grouped. All the Sparkline are grouped. So if you change one, they will change automatically. So let's switch this from line to let's say maybe want to switch it from line to column. So you don't need to go to insert again, you come to the type, okay, because you have your sparkline, you can edit them or edit the data here, but this is what we want to choose. So I want to change it from line to column. Okay, so let me just see that I select just, okay, it select everything. So if I just click column, it will automatically update all of them. Understand? Except if I ungroup it. Like for instance, I can decide to, this one is the one I've selected actually. I can decide to select more of it. I can decide to select, okay. So if I want to ungroup this first one, what I will need to do is to come here and I click ungroup, okay. But before that, I want to change the color scheme, okay. So you can actually come to the style here and maybe select the style that already have maybe specific color that you like, okay. Or you can come to this marker color, and the high point, I can decide to make the high point green and the low point red and all that. Or the sparkline color itself, I can come here and decide to change, just like the sparkline is blue, I can decide to change everything to become green. Or let me click it so you see. I decide to change everything to green, but let me undo so that I want to manually do this. So I can decide to, let's say, the high point, because the high point is positive, like where it made more cell. So I want it to be green. I can decide to choose from this color or select one that is better for me. Maybe the darker green. Yeah, I can decide to, all the high point, I want it to be red. I want it to be green. Then I want all the low points to be red. So let's say, let me choose this darker red. So you can see all the low points are red, while all the high points are green. Then another thing again is, I can decide to, if I come to the design, I can decide to change the style, maybe select any other style that I have here. I feel like it's better for me. You can choose, let me say, if I choose this one, see, it will change it to that style that you want. Okay, but let me leave it to this one that I did it just like this. Now, another thing is that you can ungroup it, so that if I make change in just one, it will not copy to other ones. So just like I have selected this one, I can come here and say ungroup. So you see, the moment I click on group, not everything is highlighted again. So even if I decide to change the color for the high point for this one, let me say change the high point from green to yellow. Then maybe choose this yellow. It will not copy down again, right? It will not move that because I have ungrouped that particular line. So this is how you can ungroup, group, change the style, change the type, or even if I decide to change just the style of backline for this one back to the line, I can do that. Okay, you can always make these changes, but that's because I have ungroup it. So if I decide to undo, so that I will have, but one thing is that once you ungroup, I think is okay. I've grouped them back again so that any changes we make on the color will copy down to color. Okay, so that's how you can be able to create spark lines, and you can see the dashboard is coming out live and beautiful. Then the next thing is creating charts. Okay, so if you want to create charts, you have to select full data, including labels, especially if it is column chart. Okay, so we are going to use insert a column chart under the table that we have in over there. There is a table actually there. Then we'll drag and resize appropriately. So let's go to the so this is the table that we have here, right? Now we want to create network. Can you hear me?
I noticed it too.
Network interrupted, so I stopped speaking so that you guys can You know what I'm saying? So we want to create a chart, right? And I said, to create a chart, we want to build a full size chart. Okay, first, it's always good to select your data and labels completely. Okay, so I will select the entire data set, but I would, okay, let me include the 2017 for now. But if you look at, you see that the data maybe is not complete yet. Maybe the information, the Mr. Ken, that is our data analyst, is still updating the information. So it is too. If you look at it, you see that it is like an outlier. Okay, so it is too low, but we will just include it for now and we'll remove it later. So you see how that is also being done. So after selecting the entire chart that we want, okay, from E37 to E42, okay, this will include the years and the states with their cells and other counts. Then I'll go to insert, and I want to insert a column chart, right? So let's insert this column chart. Then let me bring it below this and resize it. If you look at it, you see that this column chart is not that handy yet, but I'm coming. We are going to do one or two. Let me just leave it like this for now. Okay. So after inserted the column chart and place it where I want it to be. Okay. Probably just like we did it below the table. Okay. Then we drag to resize it to the size we want. But there is a problem. Okay. If you look at, you see that the sales total are way higher than the number of orders. So the bars for order look tiny. In fact, it's not even visible. Okay. So we will use a combo chart here. But before that, I want to switch column, or let me just select the data first. Let's do that from here. Okay. I want to switch the column so that instead of the name of the cities and all that here, we will have the year information here. So you see, before we switch column, let me go back. Cancel. Okay. You can do that from the design tab. Either you click straight away, I can decide to switch the column here straight away, or I can go to this select data to do that. Okay. Then we are also going, what we are going to also do here, we are going to change the chart type, but I want to do one after the other. So I can decide to switch the column from here, then come to select data, then decide to remove the one that I want to remove and leave the one I want to leave. So I want to remove this one, for instance, and okay, probably leave. I will still leave the. Then come here. I will say edit because I'm not comfortable with the what's it called, the 1, 2, 3, whatever that we have here. So we want to use the years instead. So I will select these years here and I will say okay, right? Then we still leave it like this for now. Okay. So then let me see if there's other thing I can still do here. Then for this, let me see if I remove the cell. I will still add it, but let me see something. Okay. So you can see what we have here, but we are still coming back to make it like that. I still want to use these sales totals. It is still useful for us, but not now yet. So because you can see the total, this information you are seeing here at the total, it is way too high. That's why other ones, you cannot say this one is like how many? It's like 171,000, right? 171,750. It is way too higher than 138, 66, and 17. That is why we are not seeing other graph at all. Okay, so what we do here is that's what is called combo chart. So we will have to use a combo chart, and we will still use the total, but we will use it to find trends for us. So like I said, the problem here is that the sales total are way higher than the number of orders that we have. So the bars for orders, we don't even see them. Okay, so this is where a combo chart helps. We switch the cells to a line chart, and place it on a secondary axis. That I mean the sales total. Okay, we switch it to a line chart, then place it as a secondary axis. So what we will do that this is where we need to use the change chart type. If you want to change this chart we have, initially we selected column chart, but we want to change it. So I can come to change chart type, then I'll come to combo. This is the combo chart, right? Then this is where we need to perform some, things here. So this sales total, I will change it to a line graph instead of column chart. Okay, I want this sales total that is making every other thing not visible as a line graph, but I will not just leave it like that. I want to make it to become what is called secondary axis. These ones are primary axis. Then we want it to be in the secondary axis. That's why you have to shake this secondary axis. And what we are doing here, this is a combo chart, means we want to use both line chart and column chart. That is combo, two things together. Okay, but now we want the line chart to be for the sales total alone, and we want it to be in the secondary axis. Okay, so if I say okay, for instance, you will see we have it, but this 2017 data is still what's it called? It's still not complete. But before we still remove it, let's add something for trend lines. If I come to our chart, I have slide for all of these, but let me just go on and explain them. Okay, it's just like we have done the combo chart without coming to the slide. That's why I like discussing the slide. I prefer to discuss the slide first, then we go to Excel, because I might go on explaining without coming to the slide to discuss it before we go. So we have just done the combo chart, right? We fix the scaling by separating the axis. Then we use line for sales total, okay? Then column for the others. Then we add the secondary axis for priority, right? We have done that. Then we need to add a trend line, okay? And the forecast, okay? So this trend line, we highlight pattern. Okay, we are going to highlight the pattern with trend line. Then we are going to choose linear or exponential, okay, for the trend, okay, because we want to forecast. This is where we need to forecast. This linear or exponential is when we want to do the forecasting. You want to forecast and see, okay, how the data will perform for the next year, or maybe you even want to see how it performed for the previous year. Understand? Now, we also enable the forecast and the R2 display. We will see this arrow square display. We'll see how it's being done. Okay, so to add a trend line, okay, to add a trend line, let me bring this chart down small. Okay, to add a trend line, we will use this plus icon here. Okay, after select, you have to make sure you select the chart because the chart is already selected. That's why we are having this. If I click away, you will not see that plus sign. So you have to make sure you select this chart. Then we'll click on this plus sign, this plus icon, I mean to say, or you can right click and select. Okay, so even if you don't, so if you select the what is it called, the chart, you can right click to select what you want to do from here, but that's not what I want to do. Okay, so what I want to do now is to click on the plus sign, then look at the trend line here. Okay, we are not just going to select the trend line. There's this arrow, okay, that is here. Okay, so I will click on it, then I will either select linear or exponential. Okay, so let me select linear first. Okay, or before that, let me cancel and go. Let's go to more options. Okay, so add a trend line based on sell is it is sales total that we want to use here. Okay, so I will say okay, then okay, then on the linear, I don't think, let's say exponential. Okay, let's just leave it as linear. The reason why it's like this is because of this 2017 that then. So you might be trying to find the one that is closer to 1. So before we do this, let me quickly remove the 2017 before we perform this. Okay, this our 2017 data is not complete. Okay, if you look at other information, we did not use it here. So to remove it from the chart is selected, right? Then you go to design tab, go to select data. Here now I check the 2017 and click OK. Okay, so that we have more clear data for us. Now, what are we doing? The trend line, right? So in the trend line, we selected the linear. When selecting we selected, let's go to more options so that we see them. Either you select the exponential or you select the linear. It will give you, because of how the trend moves, you understand, depends on the one you use. Okay, for instance, let's let's say linear works for us better, but it doesn't end here. Okay, there is what is called display R squared. Okay, display R squared value on our chart. This shows how well the trend line fits your data. Okay, the one that is closer to 1 is better. Okay, so if you come down, okay, you see it, display R squared value. Okay, if I display it, if you look at here, you see, okay, this one is 0.3. Let's try another one. Okay, this one is 4. Let's try this one. Okay, there is something I want to do here. I think it's because, okay, this one is actually 1. I think this one works better. Whichever one that is closer to 1. The polynomial seems like it works better based on the curve. And that is because we use cells total. Okay, we use cells total, that's why. But if to say maybe I selected one of these cells, maybe probably we would have used linear and all of that. So polynomial give us the one that is closer to 1. If you look at R square is equal to 1, so that's perfect. Let's try power and see. Okay, this one is still far from it. So the one that works better for this particular data is polynomial. Okay, so and another thing is that okay, we have used the R square value on it to give us the trend. Now, what if you want to maybe forecast? Okay, you want to forecast maybe for the future year. Understand? If you come here, you see forecast. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, we want to forecast for the next year. So what we do here is come here in the forward, not the backward, because we want to forecast forward. We add 1. Okay, so if I add 1 here, it will forecast for the next year. That, you see, our sales total for 2017 went down. And you see, even though I removed the next year information, the trend helped us to understand that, oh, because this next year information here is too low, we are going to perform very low for the next year. Okay, this is how you can be, even though you don't have the data yet, but based on the performance, you can forecast ahead, okay, and see, okay, how the data will perform for the next year. So you can see how handy this is for us using the chart and the trend lines, sparklines, and all of that. And I think, yeah, so we have created the chart. Then we also remove the incomplete years, that is that 2017. Now let's edit the title and we name it sales trend. And what again? Ensure clean answers and legend. Okay, so what we can do here is the chart title. You can either double click it here to change, or you can come to the chart title and you can decide to rename it by clicking here. Okay, where you want it to go to more options. You can now do whatever you want to do. But instead of doing that, let me just come here and double click to type what you want. So we want to name it sales trends, sales, right? Sales trends, yeah. sales trend, right? So, all right, that works. So you can see we have our sales trend chart added for us. And what we use here is combo charts. Okay, it is like an advanced charting technique. Okay, it is an advanced charting techniques. Okay, so we have been able to do a lot of things today. We have been able to, use visual tools like the Sparklines, trends per row, just like the one we did here. This is the Sparkline. Okay, this one's here, we are able to find the trends per row or per year, depending on the information. And also the combo chart that we use that compare the units and the trend line visual that we use to predict for the next year, or in another word, forecast the next year. That is what we did here. And that brings us to the end of today's class. Okay, if you see, before we started, we have almost everything here. Let me remove this. Empty. But now we have some visuals that, actually create an insight for us. Okay, so another thing I can do, this trend, I can decide to probably make it bolder. Okay, and I can decide to, maybe if I want to increase, so I can say maybe 16 or 18 works better. Then leave it like that. So you can see we have been able to, use the visuals to make our dashboard look good. They made the data understandable. Okay, so you can experiment, make your own, and trust what the data is showing you, right? In your hands on practice. So if you have any question, you bring it on. We are done for today's class.
No question, as usual.
No question?
Mm.
All right. So okay, let me see if I can
Hello?
ask. Okay, I'm listening.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good
The
morning.
reason why I'm not talking is just I joined very late, and secondly, I'm new to this data analysis. So that's the reason why I'm not even saying something. But I hope this thing is recorded,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
it is recorded.
I can go through. And those previous one you were talking about, I don't know how I'll get the, I don't know how I'll take it so that I can go through it.
Yeah, of course, I will post it in this channel, and probably in the general channel or in the material. Probably in the general channel. Let me check. Later, I will share it in the general so that one can see it. I will share it in the general channel. Here is the playlist. Okay, instead of sending the videos one after the other, I will send you a link to the playlist. Okay, so you can start from the beginning. You have access to the videos. Okay.
Okay, that would be good. Thank you.
But one thing you need to understand: this training is a paid class, and we do hands-on practice and practice challenges, which is limited to those that only subscribe. And it's not something that will discuss live here. I just want to inform you. Though you may have access to the class like this, but we have assignments, we have practice challenge. One of us here can confirm that. We have practice challenge, and some practice like where this training is not just like live class here. We have it like a two-phase where you attend the class, watch the video, and where you practice. And the hands-on practice is also explanatory. Understand? It's not like I give you data and no, just it's also explanatory. It's like someone is also teaching you. Understand? But it will make you
Okay.
to know what is called problem solving. And if you look at the way our class is, this is not just an Excel training. Okay, it is not just an Excel where you I want to learn Excel. No, even in the CyberCap, you might not be able to learn what I'm teaching here. In fact, even those in CyberCap might not even know it, because they don't use it. Who will be using Sparkline and Trendline and all of that in a CyberCap? They don't use it, so they might not even know it. They might only teach you the functions and formulas to do one or thing. Graphs as well, how to do visualizations and all, but not to that extent, not to the advanced method or even the combo, just like we did the combo. And we didn't just use the combo, we also did forecasting. So have that in mind, we just did forecasting now. So if in the future someone asks if you know how to use Excel for forecasting, okay, data forecasting or that kind of thing, you can be able to say yes, because you now know you can use the trend line and the arrow squared value to forecast for the next year. You go to forecast, and that too, where I opened it. Let me go back to it again. And in the trend line, you can actually did forecast. So if you select the what is it called? The graph or the chart that you want to forecast, then you can either double click or you can go to the what's it called? Use the plus sign. I don't know why the plus sign is not showing, wasting my time to find the information that I need. So I can go straight to what I want to do. Let me remove this again. I don't know why the plus sign is wasting time to show. Or I can go to design and find that information that I'm looking for. So you can go to add chart elements. You can look for trend lines. So if the plus sign wastes your time, I can probably go to the design tab, go to add chart elements and look for what you want to do. So I don't want to add a new Sparkline, but let me just do this and see what you have. Instead of selecting the cell totals, let me see for this NSW, and I'll say, okay, let's see what we have, and I'll say linear, okay, or exponential. Then I'll say, you see how we're going to do forecasting with that particular data now. So I'll say, okay, you see this one, that linear that we selected, oh goodness, this is stop hanging. Okay, the exponential or linear is closer to 1. So if I select linear, okay, you can see the exponential is closer to 1, is 0.986, right? While linear is 0.97. So exponential is closer to 1. If you come to this logarithmic or whatever, it's going down. Even this polynomial that we use, okay, this one is also good, it's closer to 1. So you can as well use this or use the exponential, but let's use the exponential for now. Now I want to forecast for the next year. Then you come, depending on how many, if you want to forecast for 2 years, that means I will say 2. But because you want to forecast for the next year, I will say 1. And I'll say enter. Okay. Now, do you know why this trend line move forward for this one, but for this one it comes down? Because if you look at the trend of these cells, you see that even the cell noticed that the total, because we use the total for this trend line here, right? It is going down. It is going down. So it has become a norm. Okay? Each year it will go down. Even if you go up small, you go down again. So the trend told us that it will even go down further. Probably our managers are not doing well, right? But this time we are forecasting for the city, for this particular city, right? Not the total. Now, if you look, you see that this city, understand, is doing well. Remember, we removed the 2017. It's no longer there anymore. So if you look, you see that this city is doing well per year. In 2013, it was 138. In 2014, it was 147. In 2015, so it was increasing, and you can see the forecast told us that it will even increase further. So you see how you can able to make an insight using forecasting for the next year. which is 2017. And if you look, you see that the line move forward. This is 2016. So the next information we should have, the 2017 should be around this area, right? So that is why even the forecast is within that area. If we forecast for 2 years, it will move further. Let me say 2. That's done, and I say enter. You see, it will even move further, telling us that it will even keep on going higher, right? Because actually that's what the data. But if the data is not doing well, it's enough to tell you that, oh, even in the next year, if we do not change what we are doing, we keep on getting the same results. So the insight we get here is probably maybe our managers are not performing well. We need to change managers. Otherwise, you cannot use the same managers each year. You're not getting the result you want each year, and you want miracle to happen. No, it will keep on going down. So forecast will even tell you that if you are still doing the same thing, you will keep getting the same results, and which means you keep on going down. But if you are doing well, that means the managers are doing there is something that you are doing that is right, and it will keep on going up for us. That is why I decide to use the city to forecast instead of the total in this particular one. But here we use the total to do this. Okay, we use the total for the trend line. I mean, for the line graph that we use as the secondary axis. When we go to this chart, remember the sales total, we change it to line and we make it a secondary axis. So the trend goes down because it is not actually doing well based on the total. So I hope you understand that. Then if you have any question, you are saying something actually before I kept on explaining. Are you there?
Yes, no, I was not.
Okay. So even if you are new to data analytics, this training will make you grounded. Okay, we are going step by step. Each class is built from the previous. Okay, just like the COUNTIF we use today, references that we use today, we have taught it. Now we are not just teaching it; we are using it. You see how it's being used. You see how it's being used. Even the charts, we have taught visualization before, but now what we are doing is like the advanced part of it. Okay, now you understand that you can even use Sparkline. This is like having a graph inside your table, just a tiny graph inside your table. Maybe we don't have space. For instance, you don't have space where you create a new graph for this data here. To create it outside, you can create it inside using Sparkline as a trend. It tells you how, if you look at, you see 2013, the amount for this manager was low. As the year was going, he's doing better. That is what even this red line told us here. Okay, as the year was going, it was doing better for whatever city he was, or something like that. If you look at this particular manager, you see that the first year he did well, other year he did absolutely poor. And you will be able to see the high points and low points, because I made the high point green, the low point red. You will be able to know, okay, in the second year is where he had the low point, without even looking at the data to see the values. You'll be able to know in the second year is when he made the low point, and the other year he did better than this year he did very poor, but they were still poor. Understand? So that's how all of this is handy for us. So do you have any other question? Do you have any other question?
No.
Okay.
So the only thing is that the guy, when he asked about the previous classes, I was thinking that you would have directed him to your YouTube channel so that he will start from from day one. As he say he's new in the this thing,
See what
in the system, so that we go through it.
you said what?
I say he asked before that he said that before that he's new in this system. That what I was expecting from you before explanation is just to tell him to go to your YouTube channel and join, subscribe and join and start from the beginning of everything.
Thank you for reminding me. Even though I'm going to share the what's it called? I'm going to share the playlist there. The most important thing there is that you subscribe, so that when, just like this class, I'm going to publish it. So even if you miss live class like this, you have access. You'll be able to get notification. When you subscribe, make sure that the notification bell is on, so that once we publish, even if you attend live class, you want to still go through it, right? And you want to know when it is published, so that you will not miss out. Then you go on. So the most important thing, I will share the playlist. Then you can let me give me a moment. So I'm going to post the link to my YouTube. You can go there and subscribe. I hope that works. So I'm going to post my. Let me see.
I said I hope he can hear you.
Let me post the link right now while we are here. So look at the general channel. You see that I posted the link now. So click on it. You subscribe to our channel. Then you can go to, you see the playlist there already, even without waiting till I post it here. Then if you go to the playlist, you see Excel, you see the different playlists. Apart from this Excel, I have other tutorials, like recorded one that is not a traditional class like this or a virtual class like this, but they are also insightful. Maybe classes that talk about Python or SQL, or you also, the good thing about subscribing is you also have access to other things, other training that you might not have the time to hold, like live class like this. Even when you pay for a live class like this, there are other things that I teach that you don't pay for. You have access if you subscribe to that YouTube. Okay. Then another benefit of subscribing to our site, I mean registering, is that you have access to other training. I can link you up to opportunities. Like if you look at in the general, I think in the external resources, you will see there's one information I put there that says dreaming of a tech career but worried about the cost. I think it's about Lock Tech. It's a scholarship. Okay, I think the training will start on 28th June. I posted it there. That's one thing, you have access to some of these. And so if you have not subscribed, I posted the link. You can go subscribe to the YouTube and start following up. Maybe before the next class, you must have gone through some, you see some things, you must have learned a lot, so that we are talking about things, you will not be like, this is new to me. Even you don't need to know it all immediately, but at least you will be able to follow up, listen to the class, and do better next time.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah. So, and if you are coming across our video for the first time, please subscribe. While I'm telling my students to subscribe, to come across this video, this video pop up in your news feed, please subscribe. Join our training. This is a comprehensive mentorship training in data analytics. We are covering the tools one after the other, just like this is an master class, okay, a comprehensive training using Microsoft Excel. We also cover class for other tools like Python. So we don't want to mix it up. It's not like you learn Excel in 1 week, you jump into without even knowing what you're doing. So by the time we finish with Excel, you know that if someone wake you up, you can be able to do one or two before we move to other tools. By that, no matter how long it takes, you know that you know it than rushing it and still not knowing anything. Thank you for joining today. No question. Then the recorded class will be available soon.
Okay, the hands-on practice then too.
I'll upload it as usual.
All right, my brother. All right, thank you for today.
All right. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Thank you.